Hello, so it's Monday the 6th of May. It's been a pretty nice holiday here in the UK. I think they had one as well in Japan. It's a much quieter week in terms of big macro news compared to last week. The next kind of big news in the market comes really with inflation data next week. So let's see if we can have a calmer, more bullish week this week. In terms of crypto news, it hasn't all been good. The SEC issued a Wells notice, which is basically a notice to sue against Robinhood crypto. I find that, it's pretty clear that they're still going after everybody in crypto land, and the only one that's really benefiting is Coinbase, which kind of makes the Coinbase stock, I think, a little bit more interesting. Let's see. So let's take a look at the charts and where we are, because we are still I'm going to start actually not with the futures, but let's look at spot Bitcoin, because we talked before, there's a number of ways to draw this channel that we're in, but this choppy overlapping correction that we've basically been doing since the middle of March is not a bearish reversal yet. It's just a correction in an uptrend, and it's still that. However, especially in corrections, that 50% retrace pattern that you see very often is very valid. So here in Bitcoin, so for this first swing lower, you can see that the first rally we did back up to this 50% level, we had a really deep pullback before we did another leg higher. If we keep that from the high and we look at this next low that we made, the next low that we made couldn't get up to the 50% and reversed, and when we pulled back 50% we couldn't hold it, so we made a new low. When you only get 50% and can't go beyond it, it means that you're still in a correction or still in a counter trend pullback. Here again, we were looking at this 50% level. It's also pretty interesting support and resistance through the middle at 65,000. And we're also still underneath this daily 50 moving average, and these moving averages on the daily are still in a bearish cross. So what happens, when you do this 50% thing? So mean reverting markets, or markets that pull back 50%, tend to keep mean reverting. So if from this high to this low, this was a 50%, the ideal kind of pullback level is going to be 50% the other way, which would mean down to 61,000. So if we were going to look for a higher low, we really shouldn't go underneath 61,000. And if we move left here, we can see that this 61,000 is pretty nice support and resistance as well. So I'm going to say, if we're going to see a higher low and continue higher, 61,000 is kind of the lowest of those pullback levels that I would like to see. Now, if we go back and look at this 50% retrace from the highs, one thing about going through fib levels is they are a little bit like a ladder. So you climb up level to level to level, and the one you got above should become support. So here, when we were reversing at the 61, if we're not going to come all the way back to 61,000, then potentially we could find support here if we just do a shallow pullback, which sometimes we see if everyone gets a little bit of FOMO. We could hold this 63,000 level here, but what I don't like about this is, especially when it looks like 5 waves up, I really like to see corrections as 3 waves. So we could see 3 waves sideways and then we continue higher, or we could see 3 waves that look like this, and we come back to that 61,000 and continue higher. And then if we did that, let's go up to the 4 hour, and we did that pullback, then it would look like an inverted head and shoulders pattern on a lower time frame, and that also would be a pretty nice kind of long setup. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm ideally looking for a 3-wave pullback in Bitcoin, and I'm going to stay looking for a higher low and a turn higher, unless we fall back underneath that 61,000 level. Now, and if we do fall underneath it, I'm afraid we're still in a little bit of a declining channel here, and we still could see one more tag of the lows and 55,000. Why would we do that? If I zoom out here, when Bitcoin makes bottoms, it really does like to retest the lows a couple of times before it makes the bottom. So the bottom we made here in November was a low, and then a proper retest of that low. This here we made a low, a hard retest of that low before we continue higher. Not always. When we pull back in corrections, sometimes you can see pretty nice V-bottoms, but V-bottoms are certainly more rare. So ideally tonight I'm looking for 50% retrace of the rally from the 1st of May, and a really nice 3-wave pattern to turn higher again to see if we've got a nice long entry. If we take a look at ETH, the ETH against the dollar chart has been a little bit more bearish. One of the reasons is that in this swing here, we haven't managed to do that 50% thing. We're still being held down by these daily moving averages, but we've got a lower high. So this one really is kind of stuck in the middle. If we look at lower time frame moving averages, we are sort of held down in ETH. So where are we likely to find support? Well, I find this is a little bit of a sideways range, potentially a little bit of a bear flag. It makes me a little bit nervous that we do see one more leg lower in ETH. But you can see we're in the middle of this sideways range. So if we're going to get to the top of this channel or range, short term, yes, we did rally from the high on here to the low on the 1st of May. We are kind of 50%. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this continue higher and maybe retest the highs of this swing. So again, I'm going to look on a low time frame for a 3-wave pullback, which we can't quite see yet in ETH. So let's look at it. Let's zoom in a bit. Tonight here. Now I could be wrong and we could keep going higher, but because this looks like 5 waves up, what I'd really like to see now in ETH is a 3-wave before we continue higher. So either a bounce and we kind of go sideways in a corrective pattern, or we do that bigger kind of 3-wave pullback thing. Not sure how this is going to play out, but the same with Bitcoin. Now, Solana is still outperforming ETH. I'm really kind of watching this one quite closely. My favorite trading pattern is a 3-wave equal measured move correction to a 50% retrace. So here in Solana against ETH, what I'm looking for is to see if Solana is going to break out here and continue to do another big swing higher. But the resistance comes from 50% from this high to this low, and this equal measured move level at 0.005 and the daily 50. Looks to me like we're breaking above it, which would say Solana on its way higher and we go level to level. So 0.0525, 0.0555, and then ideally new highs. But 0.0050 is the key level I'm watching tonight to see if we can hold above this daily 50 moving average, and then Solana will be outperforming ETH. And so if Solana is also outperforming Bitcoin, let's take a look. Any of these charts will tell us then that says this would be a really nice buy as well. But here we've got the same problem. We could just be doing a 3-wave correction and equal measured move in Solana against Bitcoin and get a little bit stuck here at this daily 50 moving average and this 0.0025 level. So this is major resistance, but if we get above it, I think that yes, this whole big 3-wave correction is over, and Solana on our way up again. And if I zoom out again, when I'm looking for targets, I always look at fib retrace levels and we go level to level to level. So here in Solana Bitcoin, and I measure from this high to low, you can see that we're in this kind of no man's land consolidation zone in the middle between the 61.8 and the 38.2. So we need to get above 0.00257 and then retest the highs at 0.003, and then the next top side target for me would be 0.00377, which is a 786 fib retrace, and we're going level to level to level. So yeah, Solana does potentially, if it could just get beyond that equal measured move level and beyond that daily 50 moving average, potentially we could see the next swing higher in Solana Bitcoin as well. So Solana already outperforming ETH, waiting to see if it can outperform Bitcoin too. And then let's take a look at some of the meme coins, see what's going on, because here in Doge we're stuck at a bit of a tricky level as well. I'm looking for a lower high and another leg higher in this one, and the main reason is I think this looks like 5 waves down, and so you should always see 3 waves going the other way. The problem is we've gone straight up and straight into key resistance, previous swing high, daily 50 moving average. So this is another one. If we're going to see another swing higher, we need a 3 wave correction. It's looking like we may have done it already in Doge, potentially. So got my eye on this one. Now, again, like all of the other charts we look at, Fibonacci trace levels for targets. We're going sideways at this 38.2. So next one up would be 50% at 0.17, 0.18, 0.2, 0.21, and then 0.2, and back to retest the highs. I'm just going to go level to level to level with this one. Not quite sure. For me, you know, it would be, if we broke down here, it would be easier to project targets. But if we break out from this sideways 3-wave correction, that would be next leg higher, setting up in a really nice kind of 4-hour buy entry here for me in Dogecoin. So watching that back, if we can regain and hold above 0.16, that should be the signal. That's what I'm watching for. Okay, if there's anything you'd like me to look at, let me know. If there's anything interesting out there. And good luck. Let's see if we can have a good week.